Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in, and in this video we're going to talk about a very important topic about how to make this educational system that is so unjust and unfair toward a lot of minority students, but specifically towards immigrant students. What are the things that we can do in order to make it a little bit more fair, and what admissions and those people in charge can open their eyes. First of all, see the problem and help us, because it is something, at least based on the recommendations that I have, it is something that is already in the system, and another minority group is using it in order to at least benefit them a little bit. All right, again, this educational system is has a lot of problems, and again it's targeting a lot of minorities and putting them at a disadvantage. But the recommendation that I have for immigrant students, and in order to help them, already exists within the system. So all the admission and these different universities, these different institutions have to do is to basically apply the same exact method, and not all of it, not all the advantages, not all the accommodations that are given to this other group, but some of it, maybe two factor, to immigrant students, which will heavily enhance their ability to perform in these classes, especially when we're talking about some of these more competitive schools, which is all about grades, numbers, and performance. All right. And I am making these suggestions from a very, I should say, honorable position, because I was fortunate enough to be on both sides of this story, or in the situations that puts basically these both groups of marginalized students in, one being a disabled students, one being immigrant students, and have this knowledge or gain this knowledge and experience, and now be able to talk about it, now become an advocate and push these institutions that at least take a step towards it, push these student bodies that take a step towards it, or help immigrant students take a step towards it, because it is very much necessary, and I will get into the reasons why. But I just want to say that it's not that just like a lot of those people who were born here and are receiving their PhD, they started all of a sudden start reading some books that these other non-immigrant individuals have written, or they considered as immigrant but they were born here, or they went to school or migrated here from elementary school or very young ages, where they picked up the language already, they picked up the culture, and now they're still consider themselves as an immigrant, which they should, right? But their experience, their knowledge, their ability, and English profundity, all right, if I want to call that, is very different than someone like me who comes to this country, or individuals like myself that comes to this country in high school, where they literally have 2 years and they're put into these ESL programs that they don't allow them to take any other classes. Like, at least, like, out of my 100%, and I've mentioned this in this previous videos, especially like the first video that I put out, why ELD students are at disadvantage. Literally, when they put you in these ELD or ESL programs, they take away like 65% to 70% of your schedule. And then if the teacher doesn't like you, doesn't allow you to go to the next level, which that itself is another problem that we have to discuss it and open it up in this channel and with these videos, and then you're stuck in the same level, which will not allow you to take any more classes that you have to, similar to other people in your grade. So how in the world you're gonna get exposed to the American culture, to these things that these kids that are in the same grade as you are learning from these different classes, these interactions that they have, but you are limited as an ELD or ESL students. All right, so I just wanted to give you guys the background and how I came up with these solutions and these recommendations that I'm trying to provide you guys with, and you will be the judge, right? You will be the judge. Think about it and see if you agree with it. If you don't, comment down below why you don't. And I just wanted to say, like, there's nothing against those people who are studying, basically receiving their PhD in education or any other subject matter that have talked about this, or want to talk about this. I'm just saying that this is something that you really have to experience. You really have to understand the challenge within every molecule of your body in order to understand the need for it and then take steps towards it. All right. So the recommendation that I have in order to solve this system, at least a little bit, all right? I'm not saying with this solution everything will be resolved, because again, each student comes from different backgrounds, have different needs, and then they might have a better suggestion, right? Or they might see other pieces of this puzzle that I'm not seeing based on my background. But these are the things that I believe, based on majority of the disabled students that I have talked with and worked with, based on majority of immigrant students that I have worked and advocate for, this will be one of those key factors that will solve the problem. And what it is two factors that comes to my head, and I honestly believe that are crucial in order to make the system more just. And one is to provide immigrant students with accommodations similar to what disabled students are receiving, but not to the same extent. So we're not just saying that, hey, copy and paste everything that disabled students are receiving and give them to immigrants. We're saying that with a correct analysis of their needs, there are certain things that are in the system, because it's very difficult to bring outside stuff or create new portions in any systems that is currently running in America or the West. All right. And then what I'm trying to say is that this system already, these accommodations are already provided to disabled students, and we can grab two factors, right? Two of them, adjust them and provide them to immigrant students in order to enhance their ability to perform in classes, to perform most importantly during the tests or for the tests, because a lot of the class grades or that course grades usually in universities comes from, especially if we're talking about universities that are more competitive, have these larger classes, comes from students' performance in tests. All right. So if immigrant student is provided with extra timing when it comes to the tests or exams in general, and B is provided with a non-disruptive place where they can take the tests. So when it comes to the test day, they can go to these different rooms that have people that are proctoring them, meaning watching them, that disabled students who have this accommodation, these accommodations that I've mentioned, extra test timing and non-disruptive place, also are present there and will go there. Immigrant students, those who are qualified, and qualified is a key point, because there will be tests, there will be some sort of system in place to qualify them, because not all immigrants come from the same background. All right. So those qualified immigrants receive this accommodation. They go to those specific places, those specific rooms with disabled students that are considered non-disruptive, that basically eliminates a lot of noise, a lot of these eye-to-eye communications and interaction with other students in the test days, right, and in exams, and are provided with extra time, 120%, 110% even, right? So what do we mean is that if a student, a normal student who was born here, who have enough knowledge about English language, is provided with 100% of a test time that the teacher, that the professor considers it, they receive 10% to 15% to 20% extra, which I believe 20% is something that they need. So 120% of test timing in a non-disruptive place. And why? Why should they receive these accommodations? Because obviously these accommodations are not free. Having those rooms assigned to disabled students and to immigrant students is going to cost the university, right? Have somebody who figure out what rooms are free and what times they are free or available for students to come in, and then have these proctors. All of this is going to cost them money. So what is the reason behind it that they should provide immigrant students? Or why do I claim that it will enhance their performance? Because A, immigrant students are doing at least twice the job of a regular student with an average proficiency of English language when it comes to test days. And we're not talking about even when it comes to homeworks, when it comes to other matters, right? Day-to-day classes and all of that. We're talking about just the tests and test day or exam days, which is unfair by itself, because all those matters that I just explained, those should be considered too. But just when it comes to the test days, he has to, or she has to, or they have to read each question, translate it to their mother language, understand it. So that's one step that as someone who was born here doesn't have to do. Then, assuming that they perfectly have the answer, they have to translate the answer back to English. Which again, this student who was born here doesn't have to do this. Now they have to, when they're writing it down or when they're typing it, they have to be very careful to go with correct grammar, especially if they're like a junior at UC Berkeley or another competitive institution, right? Because when the GSI is reading those answers, grammar matters to some point, all right? What the hell is this guy like saying? It's been a lot of times that I was marked down because I was under so much stress that I couldn't deliver a perfect grammar. The GSI, who was going through all these papers, didn't read or understand my answer correctly and just like marked it a D for that particular question, or like 20%, right? So go with the perfect, translate it to their mother language, translate it back to English, go with a reasonable to perfect grammar, and then fourth of all, use a reasonable language, vocabulary we're talking about. Because for God's sake, they're in university, right? And then all of those matters. All of those matters in the eyes of a GSI when they're reading it. Because that's a reputation. When they see a better writing, they will assume that students have it better, have understood it better. But then, that's just judgmental, but on just a broad evidence perspective, if we want to go with it, these immigrant students have done 4 things that they have to thought about, that they have to calculate in their head, that as somebody who was born here doesn't have to do. So they need that extra timing. And then we're talking about a non-disruptive room or a place when it comes to taking tests, because I've been there as an immigrant student. It gets intimidating. It eats you from inside. When you see people start rolling down the stairs towards the professors, towards the GSIs, turning their paper. And you're still you have 2 or 3 more questions to finish it. And it's not because you're dumb or you have less knowledge than them or you didn't attend the classes. It's because you have to take care of a lot more process than them. And them is those who were born here. those who have enough proficiency of the language, they can easily just take care of it. So you will see them. Even if you're not, even if you're typing, even if you're writing, you can see them or you can hear them. You're still a human when you're taking a test. And it will affect an immigrant student. It affected me. Oh, I'm getting behind. Oh my God, the way that they're gonna look at me. So you're not only are gonna feel intimidated because you're getting behind, sometimes by students that never attended all those classes that you did or participated well. But they show up in a test day, and because they can put together the language or deliver their messages much faster to each question, they got it sooner than you. Walking down. So you're intimidated. That self-talk, that image that you know others are looking at you. You're always the last person. That the professor is looking at you and seeing that you're usually the last person. They all will affect you as an immigrant student, or affect immigrant students if you're a non-immigrant students watching this and you don't know what I'm talking about. Alright? So we need a place that at least all those judgmental factors is out of it. So please, if you do agree with this, because again, I've experienced both sides of this. Having these accommodations, not having these accommodations, as just an immigrant student, having these accommodations because I had disabilities. And I can tell for sure, if I had these accommodations from the beginning, it will lower my stress a lot. It will enhance my performance a lot. And this is what we deserve to have. Because we're just simply putting a lot more work than somebody who was born here. And the system is very unjust, or a lot of injustices in it, that it needs a lot of work to make it better, right? But this is something that exists within it, and it just can be copy and pasting. But they don't do it because there's no laws. I've advocated for this system for a long time. If you look up my name and you look up ESL accommodation program, you will see. But the reason that the institution won't do it, even though a lot of professors will agree with this, is because there's no laws to back it up. This is definitely a multiple series topic that we should talk about, and I will upload on my channel. So let's just cut it up here. And then in the future videos, I'm talking about what are the professors' answer, usually why they agree with some of it, why they don't, based on my experience, what I have done and what I have learned from advocating for such a system, and basically see if I can convince some of these people that are watching my videos that are in some sort of power, right? Hold some sort of power to change the system, or at least help us, those who want this change for the future immigrant students, to make it happen. Thank you for watching this video, and watch out for the next series. Have a good rest of the day or night whenever you're watching this. Peace.